in the bloopers, aren't you?
Probably.
Hey folks, welcome to the farm.
Start that over again. I wasn't recording. Yep.
Hey folks, welcome to the farm. It is July 5th. I hope all of you had a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Patrick, say hello.
Hi.
Hi, man. It is muggy. My screen's fogging up.
All right, this is the first time we've done this. We are
Turn that down that way it doesn't echo.
absolute amateurs.
Let me know.
See, he's implanting your opinion in your head so that you have to. That's how brainwashing works. You're not asking for an opinion. You're asking them to agree with you. Absolute meatloaf goodness right there.
The crazy thing to me is watch her cut this open.
Let's cut into this.
Oh.
Let's cut it open.
This is what I grew up with, is these two imbeciles.
I'm at the Niagara Falls border crossing, and I can't get these goats and chickens off the trailer and into the canoe to get across the river.
Three, two, one. Hey, everybody. How's it going tonight? Pop, you look warm. You look warm with your sweater on.
Yeah, it was chilly. I only own like a few pieces of cold weather gear, and this is my heaviest jacket I think that I own. I take that back. I got a Gore-Tex one, but I don't know where it's at. We haven't traveled in a year anywhere normally, so I don't even know where it's at. I'd have to find it. But this is my heavy winter jacket.
Yeah, it's because we live in the north.
Yeah, making all you guys in the north feel envious.
No, I'm saying we live in the North Florida.
So yeah, it's been cold. It's been down into the 30s. We've had probably half a dozen days over the last 10 since the beginning of January. We've had probably a dozen days below freezing in the morning. I've had to get ice off of my windshield more days than I have not. So this is definitely the coldest part of our year.
Try leaving at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I'm still counting sugar plums at 5 o'clock in the morning.
I wish.
So we got a bunch of folks in here tonight. Looks like 15 in here. We got some names that I'm not familiar with, some new folks to our channel and to this live. If you're not subscribed, I hope you would consider doing that. So we got Todd Rainey in here from Louisiana. Or Louisiana. I'm going to say that correctly.
Louisiana.
So I lived in New Orleans, Louisiana for a year when he was actually born there. And I was corrected often that it's not New Orleans and it's not Louisiana. It's literally like Louisiana. It's like 3 syllables, not Louisiana. It all blends together. They can tell if you're not native because that's how you say it. So Castle Hives is in the house tonight. They are our guest, or I should say Brian is our guest, not a they. Simply Jan was one of the earlier ones in here. So Jan, welcome.
She always pops in early.
Yeah, we got great mods. Who else we got in here?
Come on.
So Simply Jan, we got Come On Homesteading. And this was a channel that I recently become aware of. We've kind of seen them. I think that they've been in here. They've commented on some of our videos, and I could see he opens up his videos with a drone shot. And I knew as soon as I saw the first drone shot, I'm going to check further into this channel because Florida has a very distinct landscape. And I could tell from the drone shot.
Has a specific landscape.
Yeah, where we're at in Northeast Florida and Southeast Georgia, it kind of all looks the same. And so I started digging into it and come to find out that this Come On Homesteading is
35 minutes away.
35, yeah, in Waldo, Florida, just down 301 from us up in Baker County. So it's kind of like
when I'm at work and I go to lunch, I go to Waldo.
Yeah,
well, it's technically Stark, but to the Chic, and I think it shut down, unfortunately. But
so it's kind of a neighbor to us, and we just learned. So we just become aware of Come On Homesteading just this week.
We speak the same language, Dad.
Yeah,
he says "come on," and I say "yee yee."
Free Handley Made. I watched one of Free Handley's Made videos this week, and if you haven't checked it out, she did a session. It's kind of long, but it's good to listen to if you're kind of like at work or something. And it's basically talking about autism and interacting with people with autism, and a lot of some folks, when you interact with, I'm a rehab counselor by trade, so I'm kind of trained in working with folks with disabilities regularly. But a lot of people, when they get around people with autism or anyone else with any type of disability, kind of makes them uncomfortable. But Free Handley Made did this video that talks about interacting and communicating with persons with autism, and it's very well done. So check that out. I'm glad she did that. It's good information. So we got who else we got in here? Michael Harris, as always. Not sure where Michael's joining us from. He's all over the country. And then Britain Farm Homestead is in the house. Welcome. Tina Ladybug, welcome. Hobby Farm Homestead. Norseman Honey from the Great White North is in the house. At Home with Tom and Rhonda Howard. So I think you guys are new to our channel, or this is the first time I think I've seen you in the live. So welcome.
Ed, we are growing at astounding rates right now.
I mean, we've added. I was looking at the analytics this morning, and it's really popping. I mean, we've added 650 in the last 30 days in terms of subs, and it's not because of a short or anything. It's just some of our older videos are really kind of beginning to accelerate some growth. Contrary Farmstead, welcome. I don't think I've seen you in here in the past. Hope you join us regularly. Castle Hives, or I already did, Brian. Pafford Homestead, welcome. Sweeney's Creek Farm, that's one of our down under friends.
Yeah, we can't mention Castle Farms like multiple times because he's getting like an entire episode.
Sweeney Creek Farm, if I recall correctly, several episodes ago, and again, I should have wrote it down and I didn't. You had talked about coming on to our get to know him section and maybe premiering something at your farm. I think that was you, and if so, that I really apologize that I have not reached out to you. But just seeing your name kind of cued me in that I did not write that down the night that was. So if it is you, put a comment in there so I will know that, and I will reach out to you. If it's not you, then just ignore everything I'm saying.
Are you referring to the ones that wanted to go live out at a specific building?
Yeah,
right?
out to kind of do a tour around their homestead in Australia. I think that would be pretty awesome. We got Jules, Small Gardening, the man, the myth, the legend. Highland Homestead. So Eva is in here coming at, I guess that's the other Great White North, because she did a video of some friendly neighbors of hers, and it was like snow as far as the eye could see. And it's like, I kind of got nauseous looking at so much snow like that. We don't have no snow. Keto Homestead with Jess, welcome.
We get snow sometimes.
Yeah,
like 1988, you remember?
I do. It was
1998.
It was 1990. Lori's World. Lori, your shirts are on the way. We just got them today. You'll be going out in the next couple of weeks. Hickory Croft Farm, welcome. They're going to be on in a few weeks. I think I'm almost through. I think I caught it. Then Paula Wells. So that's who is in the house so far. We'll try to do some shout outs. Moderators, if you can share out the links to our guests tonight, I would be ever so grateful.
Also, to make it easy, I have pinned. I learned that I could actually do this in the YouTube chat, not through StreamYard. But if you guys go up to the top of the live stream chat and click that little pinned post, that will have a link to Castle Hive's YouTube homepage. You can subscribe there. And like always, we've said this a few times, don't just go there and hit that subscribe button and take off. Go in there, watch some videos, subscribe to the channel, interaction is key, and he's got some really, really good content, and you guys will see he's pretty down to earth, cool dude. And he's on deck. He's here.
He's got a big smile on his face now. You can't see him, but he's in the
like this.
He's in the green room. He's in the StreamYard green room. You can't see him yet. So while we're on this topic, I don't know. Several of you were in here a few weeks ago when Lori's World was on, and in that, I always ask the question, "What's your hidden or unique talent that you have?" And Lori and her mom Sharon, they both talked about singing, and kind of jokingly, I said, "Well, you guys ought to do some karaoke." Guess what came out this week from Lori's World? A karaoke video of Lori singing. So if you have not seen Lori's karaoke video and you saw them in the characters that her and her mother are, and one of the songs she did was "These Boots Are Made for Walking." Check it out. You will not be disappointed. So she did good. Good job. Morris Patch of Heaven, welcome. Joyce and or Jean, probably Joyce. Welcome. So let me do a shout out to our mods tonight. Or these are our regular mods. Some of them are in here, some of them are not for one reason or another. So we got Jan from Simply Jan Homestead, Highland Homestead, and all of the links that are shared out. I'd love for you to just kind of go to each other's channels, check each other out. There's a bunch of channels in here that are not regulars in our live. I hope you become a regular with us. I would love to see you on a weekly basis. But Simply Jan Homestead, Highland Homestead, Eva is one of our mods. Paula Wells, moderator extraordinaire. James from Petway Family Farmstead. He's got his hands full tending to his wife, and she's making good recovery from everything that I have read and heard from James. So that's awesome. Tony Walsh from Walsh Farms. Frank from The Adventures of Frank and Tina. Ed Hatmaker from Ed's Attention to Detail, and Roland from Getting It Done North of 7. So those are our moderators. Not all of them are in here, but they probably will drift in and out over the course of this. So check them out. Check out everybody in here. I know Paula Wells is working hard on getting all those links put out. So
Hey, Dad.
What's the question?
How do you fix a broken cabbage?
How do you fix? I don't know.
A cabbage patch. What's on your hat?
You're reading your dad jokes, aren't you?
I am.
Okay. All right. So tonight's hat is from Naval Station, Pearl Harbor. So my son-in-law had the opportunity to visit Pearl Harbor several years ago for some en route. He was en route to the Far East, and he knows how much I like my hat. So he got me a hat in the small amount of time that he was there from Naval Station Pearl Harbor. So Pearl Harbor, as you may or you may not know, is the United States forward operating base in Hawaii. It provides pierside support for 25 U.S. Navy vessels and submarines in the Pacific Ocean Operating Theater. Most people, though, know Pearl Harbor because on December 7th, 1941, the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor, which drugged the United States into World War II. So that attack by the Japanese on December 7th, 1941, destroyed or damaged 20 U.S. Navy vessels, including 8 of the battleships. Extraordinarily, none of the United States flat-top carriers were in port, and they were out at sea, and that really is what helped turn the tide of the war in the Pacific. Was all of those, none of them were damaged in the Pearl Harbor attack. Also lost 300 aircrafts. So that attack on Pearl Harbor resulted in 2,400 U.S. casualties in a matter of hours. An additional 1,000 service members were injured. So As I do every week, I want to send my regards, my thanks, my prayers out to all U.S. service members around the world that have previously served, that are serving, and those young men and women who will be serving our nation in the future. So, that answer your question?
Yeah, it did.
So, with that said, tonight's guest is Brian from Castle Hives. So he's got his drum roll going. Hey, sir, how are you?
What's up? How are you?
Hey, good. So, I'll be honest with you. Since I learned of your channel several months ago, I think I learned through your channel through Ridge Life. I really have just kind of watched some of your current videos as they come out. I haven't really gone back and dug into some of your older stuff. And had I done that prior to yesterday, when I was doing my notes, I would have learned that not only are you a beekeeper, but I've got some serious grill envy going on. Yeah, you got one banging grill.
The Rectech.
Yes. Is that a pellet grill?
It is, yeah.
That is amazing. I've got a Traeger, and I love my Traeger. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But that's got some design features like horns for handles. It's pretty cool looking.
I had been looking for a pellet grill for some time, and I travel for work, and a physician that I was working with, I got talking to him because I heard someone mention that when he retired, he was going to go on the barbecue circuit with like Myron Dixon.
Oh, really?
And I was just like, wow.
I sat next to Myron Dixon on a flight from Chicago to Atlanta.
Really?
3 years ago, yes.
That's awesome.
He wasn't very sociable, but I did sit next to him. He told me, I recognized exactly who he was. I tried to strike up a conversation, but he just wanted to sleep.
Yeah. No, I got talking to this physician, and I was telling him, I'm looking to get a pellet grill, and he said, what kind? And I said, well, around my area now, I live in Northeast Ohio. I said, everything is Traeger pellets, Traeger grills, everything. He said, let me just tell you, he said, the Traeger regional sales rep in my area, he won't tell anybody, but he has a Rectech grill at his house.
Really?
I said, never heard of Rectech. So he went through and told me about it, and I ordered one, and oh man, I love that thing.
Well, I can tell you, it looks like an awesome grill. My Traeger, I've had it for probably 3 years now, and I have never cooked anything that went south on that grill. And yours, the design features in yours just look really, really cool. I was talking to somebody that had one that helped out, and then just reading reviews. And then when I actually got that grill, they had to deliver it it came on a pallet on a freight truck. I had to go pick it up at like a freight, like a trucking depot. Mm-hmm. And the Rectech's thing is, they want everything put together so that you don't have to do anything. That way they can manage quality control and just different things like that. So that kind of got me too. And, but yeah, it's pellet grills all in all, they were awesome. It got me researching them and it's, looking at the features of it, I'm thinking this thing's really expensive. Well, it's not cheap, but it's not that much more expensive than the Traeger grill at all.
Yeah.
So
Rectech's, by not selling them in stores just because of, the stainless and everything of how they're built, it keeps the price down. Mm-hmm. If they were sold in stores, they'd probably be a $2,000 grill.
See how fast I digress when I start connecting with somebody in barbecue. That's like one of my favorite things, man, is cooking on my grill.
Yeah,
and I do it very frequently. So let's talk about your channel. So you posted your first video June 18th of 2015. What was it?
Oh my gosh. I would have to think back. I don't even know.
It was not a beekeeping video.
Yeah. Was it a drone video?
It was Phantom 1 over Rock
There
Hill,
you
South
go.
Carolina.
There you go.
So were you living there? Were you visiting there? Or were you?
Work.
Okay.
I was down there for work.
Do you own this Phantom 1? Because Little Rick wants a drone, and we don't know anything about drones, or I don't know anything about drones.
I do, and I actually, right behind me on that shelf unit, about right there, I have a Mavic Pro.
Oh.
And that little drone is, it's DJI's one of their newer drones. The Phantom was a good learning point. It took a beating, but it doesn't have all of the technology like now. The Mavic Pro has the GPS, the return to home, it flies 40 mile an hour. So,
Wow.
but yeah, drones are.
I'm monitoring comments, but I just want to say jealousy has already set in.
Well,
There you go.
Well, I was intrigued by the one over Rock. I mean, it was basically it was a short video. Just went 32 seconds, just went up and then came back down. But then you did another one just a month later on July 4th, where you flew the drone up into a fireworks celebration. And I got to tell you, that was cool.
Yeah.
So the fireworks are exploding almost at the same level as this drone is filming. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So Paragon Ridge Ranch says, we have had a Traeger for about 3 years. I love it. Cook on it during all seasons. I would not have bought it if I did the research. There are much cheaper, similar quality brands out there. Paragon, I have a Traeger, and I would absolutely agree 100% with you. Go over, but if you want to see one heck of a cool looking grill, and this is another pellet grill, go over and check out Brian's video that he's cooking any number of things on. The one that I watched was your pulled pork one. And I think Uncle Chris's pork rub.
Uncle Steve's shake.
Uncle Steve's, there you go. Uncle Steve's shake.
Yeah. I just did, and this is, we're going to digress again. I just did this past weekend.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, this past weekend, it was my son's birthday, and I had asked him, I said, what do you want? What do you want me to cook? And he said, everyone has a great day. I must run tips. My hat to Brian. Hey, Ray, Norseman, honey, you take care, buddy. But my son said, how about, can you smoke wings on the grill? I said, well, I never have. I said, I'm sure I can. So I looked it up, and I've got Uncle Steve's competition bird, and it's for chicken or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I, seasoned up the wings with that, and I smoked them on the Rectech for 2 hours. The company that came over, my son's fiance's mom and dad, they said, these are the first wings that I think we've eaten in a long time that we did not even think of putting any kind of sauce on them. The taste was just,
That was one of the very in the first few months that I got my Traeger. I will try to smoke anything, and I did. And we had a big 4-H gathering, so we had 60 people here for a 4-H meeting looking at chickens. So I spent essentially half of a day smoking as many wings as I could put on and I got the larger Traeger grill, and so I cooked probably 25-30 pounds smoked them on there. And prior to that, though, I tested some things, and the one thing that I've learned about smoking them is if you're going to put any kind of rub on there, it's got to be a very fine rub. It can't have chunks of ingredients like onion or garlic because it will burn.
Yeah.
It's got to be a really fine granulated powder of whatever you use. So, and I'm not a fan whatsoever of Old Bay seasoning. Try Old Bay on those chicken wings. It is phenomenal on a smoked chicken wing. It is
okay. Now, when we're talking about barbecue, I got to ask: have you ever done a turkey on the Traeger?
It is my favorite way of. I did a turkey. I've done 2 of them. I did this last Christmas. I did on the Traeger, and then 2 Thanksgivings ago I did on the Traeger. It's by far the best turkey I've ever had. You got to brine it first.
I would agree.
So I take a 5-gallon bucket. Fill it up with whatever brine you're using. You go on the internet and there's thousands of brine recipes. Mine was a very, very simple brown sugar brine that was salt and brown sugar. Stuck it down in there in the 5-gallon bucket. Make sure the whole thing is submerged. Stick it into. We've got multiple refrigerators and freezers because we kind of borderline preppers. So I took it and stuck it into one of my refrigerators and just let it refrigerate overnight. The next morning I put it on. It took about 6.5 hours, and it was just absolutely delectable.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking about it. My mom asked me if I would do a turkey on the grill, and I was just getting over that virus thing. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't real keen on having just to do, just get involved in all that. And I told her, I said, another time I will, but I was just curious. I'm just so curious on how the taste would be.
Yeah, Sonny's place said I'd love to try. I'm not sure what this is. A Cochinita Peeble on a Traeger. I don't know.
I have no idea.
I don't know what that is. Yeah, I would absolutely. I've done everything. I'll try. I even did a corned beef brisket about 3 months ago, and that was fantastic.
Yeah,
I'll try anything on it.
Yeah,
but turkeys are really, really good. Ham is phenomenal on it. I probably cook more large cuts of meat on that than we ever do inside. Whenever we have an event where I'm doing large cuts of meat, it's usually done on that Traeger.
Yeah.
So we talk about we're talking about all this cooking. So everybody coming on here now, Brian, would probably think you're like a barbecue channel.
I know.
What's your channel about?
Bees, mostly bees, and really going back, some of the backstory on really why I started filming it and how I more or less got the name, because from where my first beekeeping video hit, prior to that, it was just my name. It was my own personal YouTube. Mm-hmm. And, I would just throw little videos if, like the drone stuff. I was on the road. We got Bruce the Swarmstead in here. And I would just tell people back home, I'd say, hey, check out this little drone video, or, look at this. And when I got the bees, the whole Castle Hives name came just because Castle it's my mom's maiden name, and the bees are over her property. So I thought, yeah, Castle and Hives, that's,
that was one of my questions, because I saw you doing a hive inspection, I think it was, and you said that you just finished searching Buckingham and you were moving on to the main castle. So I'm like, that's kind of novel way of naming your hives. We did something similar before we killed our bees. We're like 0 for 2 with our beekeeping skills. So we've had bees for two successive years, and so far we've driven. I don't know if it's like we're slumlords or something. I don't know what it is, but they just keep leaving our houses.
Slumlords.
So
we've even tried giving them names.
Yeah, we
had the redneck beehive, which is what we caught on our farm, and then we had the beach bums, which is a hive that was actually given to us. And then we had one that we purchased that was an extremely healthy hive. If we're counting years, we're 0 for 2. If we're counting hives, we're 0 for 3. So,
we're gonna give it a third try this year. We'll see if we can catch some again.
Yeah, I say beekeeping, don't get discouraged. Like with what I know, there's like a kind of a beekeeping community that I talk to all the time on here, and Swarmstead's one of them. Bruce, he knows, if you want to learn about catching swarms, check him out. He's so knowledgeable with that. But that's more or less like my core group. There's a handful or so. I think there's probably 5 or 6 beekeepers that I talk to a lot and just get tips from. And, in the years that I've been doing it, I've been doing beekeeping 4 years. I know this much.
Yeah. Well, that's,
Can we have a moderator drop Swarmstead's link?
Yeah. So the 3 years ago is when I started really learning about bees, and about that same time I told my wife that, you know, I'm buying equipment, and we started buying the equipment. She said, "Oh my goodness, here we go on another wild goose chase." I know that's what she's thinking. She never said it, but I know she's thinking it.
Yeah.
So about that same time, I joined the Jacksonville, Florida Beekeepers Club, and I went and I started networking with other beekeepers. And the very second or third meeting that I went to, they said they're having a bee college. So I'm like, wow, that seems like that's for me. Well, it's at the University of Florida, and they put it on, and these are basically in the College of Entomology. It's a master's and doctoral degree in entomology related to beekeeping. So they've got an entire bee yard there where they do research on products and product development. And and it was there that I learned, if you ask 10 beekeepers how to do something, you're going to get 10 different answers. It is amazing how much variability there is. You know, something that is in a book, you talk to somebody and says, "Here's what I need to do. I'll do it," and it doesn't work. You know, something as simple as like, what is that? Varroa mites. You know, everybody talks about using those Varroa strips. Well, at our local bee club, they said, "No, don't do that. Use some kind. It's what's that acid that they use?
Oxalic acid.
Oxalic acid in the smoker-looking device." And you know, so it's that's what's frustrating is it's hard to get a straight answer from folks about what works and what doesn't work, or what's the pros and cons. But that's very frustrating.
I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that there might not be just one way to do it. So, I mean, you look at some of these channels, and you've already named several of them, and rarely do they do everything 100% the same. There's a lot of variations of how to get things done. It's the same way. Anything agriculture related, you can get the same outcome from many ways of actually doing the farming or the bee. It doesn't matter if it's bees, vegetables, goats, rabbits, chickens. So
that's true.
It was when I was looking through your channel today. You know, this what I'm talking about is really very evident. There's one video that you did fairly recently. Let me look at my notes here. It had to do with you were putting in your winter feed. Now, everyone that I've always talked to, it's like you mix sugar, you mix water, you put it in a jar, you tip it upside down, and that's your feed. You're putting in straight sugar. I've never heard of that before.
So now, some people are against it, and it's Bruce, the Swarmstead. He made a comment a little while ago. If you ask 10 beekeepers, there's sometimes you're going to get 11 answers.
I would agree with that, because one's going to tell you two ways to do it.
Well, because one person's going to say something, then they're going to disagree with themselves and tell you an entirely different answer. But the sugar, so I used to, on the top of my hives, I use what's called a Vivaldi board. And it's a thinner box that has an opening in the middle, and there's a caged area that goes over that. And I used to put fondant in that area. That way it was a sugar source.
Like cake fondant.
Yep, exactly. And I'd just mix sugar with water, and it would just be really, really super thick. And I would put that in there. Well, then the more research I did, I saw folks just putting in just pure sugar. And the sugar does a couple different things. It gives them a little bit of food, and it's more emergency feeding. You don't want that sugar to be their main source. It's just there for emergency. But also through the winter, 99.99% of the time, you know, throughout a winter, what you have to worry about, it's the moisture. Moisture is, with the cold, you know, up in the northern climates like where I'm at, moisture is what will get your bees. So having the sugar in there, the sugar will absorb the moisture. And when I put it in and you saw me dump just that pure sugar, in the springtime, if there's any left, I'll have to chip it out because it'll be as hard as a brick.
See, in my mind, and I don't know if this is true or if this is just something that I created in my head, but my understanding was using that liquid, the dissolved sugar in the water, you're giving them food for the overwinter with the sugar, but you're also giving them hydration in the form of water. So is that not true, or do they pull water from their honey stores?
It is. You can't leave. Typically, like in the fall when I feed, when you notice in the fall here in Ohio, we get the goldenrod, and that's the main, that's our main nectar flow in this area in the fall. So when all of that goldenrod, when you see it dying off, then I throw my feeders on, and I'll feed them for several weeks. I'll pull the feeders off with the liquid when we start getting, if it's getting into the 30s, I pull it off just so that it doesn't chill the hive. And they truly, if I have that, if I have 2 or 3 gallons of sugar water on that hive and it's 30 degrees, they're not going to mess with it.
Absolutely.
So when I pull that liquid off, then that's when I put the Vivaldi board on, and then I put the sugar in it. And, by that point, if you don't have enough, if they don't have enough stores to last through the winter, there's really not much that you're going to do.
Right.
So,
on a completely separate note, so my father-in-law has joined us tonight.
Nice.
So he's up in Western New York. So he's about literally an hour away from Eve up at Highland Homestead, up in the Western New York area. So welcome, Dad. So I don't think he's ever joined in. He always watches these, but he wants to make comments. And he said, well, how do you make comments? I said, well, you got to have an account to do that. So apparently he set up a YouTube account.
Nice.
So
I'm curious because I've driven up Route 90 along Lake Erie through Western New York.
Well, before you get on 90, if you get on 86, which goes along the southern tier of New York, and you get halfway between Jamestown and Binghamton, there's this little podunk town called Hornell, New York, and in their case, Elmond, New York, and that's where they live.
Oh, wow.
It's old Erie Railroad line ran through there. That's its claim to fame. Now they refurbish railroad cars for all the major metropolitan areas. So Boston, New York City, and
awesome.
And, Chicago. They refurbished the railroad cars there in that little burg in Western New York. So,
So Freehandly Made wants to know what happens to honeybees in their natural habitat during the winter.
They will stay clustered. And when they cluster, they'll form a ball. And bees they're similar like us in that where they get their heat is they'll shiver. And it's just like us when we work out. What happens when you work out is you generate heat. So they will take turns and rotating through and keep that cluster. And I forget the exact, temp of where they keep it, but they keep it pretty toasty. So they will, throughout the winter, especially up here, like we've got a little bit of snow today, they'll stay clustered in the hive. And typically what they do is on my hives and around here in Ohio, just because we're colder, they'll say to have 2 of the deep boxes, and that cluster will start lower in your, hive, and they gradually move upwards, going through their stores, the honey and their food that they have stored up through the winter. And by the time when spring hits, they're typically in the top of your hive. But they stay clustered up.
Yeah, just in that cluster, I've heard the number, but I was shocked by how warm they keep that hive just with flapping their wings and the amount of heat that's jointly built up. So we also got my cousin in here from Western New York, Sheila Robinson. So
nice.
The family joined in tonight. So, so let's go through. So you've got, as of this morning, Brian, you got 224 videos posted, nearly 39,000 views. So steadily working at it, and you got 819 subscribers. So hopefully the folks that are in here tonight can make a dent in pushing Brian up a few. If you're not subscribed to him, go over and take a look. So you're in northeastern Ohio. So were you sad to see the Browns kicked out?
I'm not a Browns fan. I'm an oddball for this area where I live at. If you draw a line from, say, Cleveland, down to Pittsburgh, I'm right in the middle.
Okay.
So my area is a mixture of Steelers fans and Browns fans.
Okay.
Years ago, I didn't like either team, so I became a Broncos fan. I liked John Elway.
That makes perfect sense.
So, right. When Elway was drafted in '83, I started watching him in a game, and I thought, wow, he's pretty good, So I just followed him. So me being a Broncos fan and having Denver knock the Browns out of the Super Bowl countless times, I didn't have a lot of friends in this area.
I bet you didn't. I bet you didn't.
Yeah.
So your description says this channel is about beekeeping with some added vacation videos and every now and then some everyday stuff. So it looks like your beekeeping videos, they started around 2017, and you've even got some snorkeling or scuba diving videos in there. Is that like family vacations that you go on?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, we take trips. Every now and then. I think some of the we got some Broncos fans in here. I like that.
Well, you got a lot of Bills fans in here too.
Yeah.
So Highland Homestead, John at Willet Grove's a Bills fan. So, man, you guys got a lot to cheer for. I mean, the Bills, that's truly an underdog story this year. So
yeah,
I'm really not the Jaguars are like the worst team in the NFL this year. But I'm rooting for the Bills because they're such an underdog.
Yeah.
And the one that I'm not rooting for by any stretch is Tampa, because now they've got what's his name, Brady playing for them, and now they're going to the playoffs. So
yeah, the Contrary Farmstead just put that info in, and I'm actually getting some packages from him this spring. So
so bee packs.
Yeah, yep. Okay. I didn't do a video on it yet. I plan on it, but going into the winter, I had 5 hives. I'm just small scale. Mm-hmm. I want to expand out though, but I've lost 3 or 4 hives, and I've done nothing different. But I've talked to a lot of people. A lot of my beekeeper friends have lost a lot of hives this winter.
Well, the first year it was that we lost ours. We lost 1. It was pure neglect. I mean, I just got busy doing other things, and I couldn't go over there. And by the time I got back to it, it was already early fall. They should have been treated for Varroa mites, and they were just overrun. The 2 that we lost this year, we just, it's kind of like a learning process. You don't know really what you're looking at until you learn what you're looking at. We did a hive inspection, and I go in there, and there's these. This is my brain interpreting what I'm seeing. I'm seeing these weird little cells hanging off the bottom of the frame, and I'm like, wow, they're
swarm cells.
That's exactly what it is. But I didn't know that until in retrospect when the bees were gone, or half the bees were gone. So I see these cute little cells hanging off the bottom of the frame, and they're empty, and there's multiples of them, and I'm like, So I just
hatched.
Yeah, so I've already knocked them off, and I'm thinking, because I got to clean up, I got to keep the frames clean and neat. So I just scraped them off, and it was too late. They were gone like within the next 10 days.
Yeah. I've talked to a number of new beekeepers that started last year. So 2020 would have been their first year, and their bees are still doing okay. They've got 1 or 2 hives. And where it gets super, super interesting is when you get into the starting of your second season.
Mm-hmm.
When you get, in your first year, whether you get a package or whether you get a nuke, and a nuke, it's a Nucleus Hive. It's just a 5 frame. So instead of 8 frame or 10 frame or whatever style hive you have, it's just a smaller colony that already has, typically it's got a couple frames of brood. Your queen is laying in the nuke, so that's the preferred. If somebody asks me, whether to get a nuke or whether to get a package, I'll tend to, if the price, really doesn't matter to them, I'll tell them to get the nuke because you've got an established laying queen, you've got an established hive.
Here's what we learned with that too. So, the first nuke that we ever got, again, we weren't really into the beekeeping community, so we didn't really know who to talk to, who to contact. We just knew we needed some bees.
Yeah.
So we went literally to Central Florida, 3 hours away, to pick up bees. We installed them. Those were some aggressive. When that lid come off, they were coming out at you. And,
so Papa, oh man.
yeah.
We had not done a hive inspection. I'm hijacking this story, Dad, because you don't comprehend what happened because you weren't watching you laughing like I was.
This is a 53-year-old fat guy doing a 100-yard dash in about 15 seconds.
So Papa said, "Hey, we need to go and open up this hive," and this was still whenever I was like, I was walking up to the beehive like this, thinking I'm a big, and I didn't have nothing on, because I wanted to film, and it's hard to film in this whole bee suit, and it's hot in Florida, and so I was like, I'm going to be a real man about this, and so I went out there. Yeah. Papa's doing all of the work while I'm filming him doing this hive inspection, and all of a sudden I hear, no. Except not that, and he starts like walking in a circle, and I'm like, "What? Is everything okay?" I'm thinking to myself, maybe he got stung. Well, I found out that after I literally am driving him in the side by side as fast as the side by side will go to the opposite side of the property, while bees are steadily chasing us in the side by side because their pheromones had been put on Papa already.
Yeah.
And oh my God. I mean, it was so I don't think I've ever heard Papa cuss that. He was mad. I thought it was hilarious because I didn't get stung once.
If you get stung on like your hand or wherever it's at, typically what I do very first thing, and I got a hive tool sitting right here. Typically what I'll do, if I'm stung on my hand, I just take and I scrape, you don't want to grab that stinger because then you're just going to push all that venom right straight in, but you can scrape it right off, and just discard it. But also what you want to do, because you'll have pheromones around that area, I always, I'll smoke the heck out of that area just to mask that pheromone. So
I don't think we were smoking anything at that time other than tires and grass.
Well, within that 10-minute window of time, I earned a master's degree in what not to do when you open up a hive.
Oh my!
Because again, I had just finished bee school when I got my nuke, and so this was like 2 months later. So I'm like knowing what I'm doing with bees, and so I didn't even have my smoker with me. I'm like going to go into this hive without a smoker because that's what these professional beekeepers were doing. Not only that, I didn't have gloves on. I didn't have my upper body hood on. It was just a hood that basically was tightened around my neck. So when they come out, not only did they stick to me all over the place, but they went inside of my hood. I lost count at like 50 stings. My head was just sore for weeks. It was kind of numb. I had been stung so many times. So now it might be overkill, but I hood up completely with gloves.
The bottom of his eyelids were purple.
Yeah.
The bottom of his eyelids were purple. He got stung so many times. And like he said, the majority of the stings, literally because they got up through his hood. It was actually kind of funny because before I got in the side-by-side, I was worried about him before I started laughing. But I was worried about him. So I went like chasing after him in the side-by-side. And there's only like a 6.5 foot gap between an exterior fence and an interior fence where the goats are. And I would smoke with my bees.
Oh my!
So anyway, but like I said, about a 6.5 foot gap, just wide enough to drive that side by side through. And so as I'm driving, I had to stop and pick up Papa's hat and netting because he has, in the process of running, completely undressed his head and just threw it on the ground like, I'll come back later and grab that.
Well, it took me a few minutes to realize that I'm swatting at bees that I see in front of my eyes. I'm swatting at them, but they're in my veil. So I'm swatting them into my face. So it was a sight to see.
Oh my!
It was a sight
No, like what I tell people to do, if when you're just starting out, and this is just, you know, like earlier, you know, you'll talk to 10 different people and 10 different beekeepers, they'll tell you 10 different things. But my advice whenever someone asks me of what, you know, hey, I want to get bees, I tell them to do similar like what you did. Go get into a local club, because what I do in my area of Northeast Ohio, if you go 50 miles south, it might be different. You have a different environment, different weather, you know, just different flowers, different everything. So it affects all those little factors, you know, come into play. So that's why I always tell them, I tell people all the time, you know, get into a local club, you know, don't listen to as much through YouTube, but watch my channel, of course, you know, but, you know, I tell them to connect locally. And if there's in that local bee club, if there's someone, and a lot of times local bee clubs, because beekeepers always want to teach people, if there's someone that will take you over to their hives and give you that hands-on, you know, experience before you get hives, that's worth its weight in gold.
Right.
And that way, when you get your hives, I always tell new beekeepers to suit up, wear the full jacket, wear gloves until you get comfortable. Because like if you go back into some of my original videos, it would take me 5 minutes to get my first frame out of the hive. Mm-hmm. And now it's just, you know, I'm quicker. This year, and this was my, let me see, 17, 18, 19, 20. This was my fourth summer. This was the first year that I went without a jacket, but I still had a veil.
Right.
Just because I know, you know, certain hives tend to have a different temperament. So I know which hives get a little bit hotter than the others. The ones that were calm, I would work them with just the veil. The ones that would get a little bit hot and tend to tag me, I'd wear a jacket. You know, but beekeeping too, when you're learning, it's very key. Just suit up, because I say also be comfortable with them and learn how to work them.
And that's where I was going with that nuke story. So I got this nuke, and that nuke that I bought, and again, this came from South Florida, or not South Florida, Central Florida, because they got those Africanized bees down in South Florida. So they're very,
oh, wow.
Florida Department of Agriculture is very, they won't let any bees be transported from South Florida north. But these ones that I got even from Central Florida, they were very, very aggressive, as opposed to the ones that we caught on our farm. And those, shoot, you could go out, take the hive cover off, and they would not react to you at all. But that one we got the nuke from. So I guess the moral of my story from that, what I learned from that was, you know, the more native, the more local that you can get your bees from, probably the better off you are.
It is, yeah, yep. And that's one that, you know, Swarmstead, one thing that Bruce will say, you know, if you can catch local bees, you know, I mean, they're proven to survive locally. A lot of times, what you have to understand when you buy packages, a lot of times they come from the south.
Mm-hmm.
So you're getting bees that, who knows what they'll do in your climate.
Right.
I say also, if you're going to get packages, do some research and, make sure that you check out who you're getting them from. For nukes, I say the same thing. And, for nukes, when you buy a nuke, that box, when you open it, it should be bursting with bees. My second year, I bought a nuke off of someone in southern Ohio, and I knew when I opened it up, I thought, gosh, there aren't many bees in here, and I didn't know. I didn't have a mentor. I wasn't in a bee club. Everything that I know has been all on, it's all been on my own and just talking to people that I've met on here. I see Bruce's comment. That's funny. Packages are junk.
He said southern packages are junk, and given my experience, I would, because this was a large. Yeah. We got our nuke from a large distributor. I mean, it was one of the vendors at the bee college that I went to, and those were aggressive. Those were the ones that attacked me and assaulted me. So I'm not.
Yeah.
So you had said, purchasing local bees. That's kind of like, it sounds kind of like heirloom seeds, to be honest with you. Like planting in a garden. If you get some heirloom seeds that are around your area and they've been continuously planted and then pulled off the pods or pulled out of the vegetables and then replanted, they do better in your climate. So, I mean, it makes sense. Local bees that have been there for a while, they're used to that climate. So, as far as aggression, I mean, I don't understand how that would have anything with aggression. Is it just because they're more comfortable? The more comfortable the bees are, the more I don't want to say stress free, but docile, I guess.
There's a couple factors that go into, like my hives that tend to be pretty calm, and I work them with just a veil. I'll go over in, this t-shirt, and I'll have shorts on and slip-on shoes in the middle of the summer. And, they're pretty calm. I can set my hand on there and let the bees crawl across my hand. And, what gets them a little bit more feisty, I'll say, is there could be some environmental factors. Mm-hmm. If you've got a storm coming in, if it's super hot, so there's environmental factors that will affect, their temperament.
Well, I can tell you if it's hot, because it does get that way in Florida, I get mad.
Yeah.
I don't like being hot.
Yeah. Well, and also too, there's certain scents. My mom, that's what started my whole bee journey, is my mom wanted to get a hive, so I got one with her. She doesn't go near the hives because they always go at her. And I've asked her, what kind of, are you spraying anything on yourself? What are you using? Because there's certain scents that'll trigger them, So for me, I'm just a smelly guy. They don't bother me.
Okay.
So, but yeah, there's a lot of things. And like, I saw a comment too about like stress. You want nice, when you're working those bees, you want nice, smooth, movements, just slow, nice movements. If like what Big Rick, what you were doing where you're swatting at him and all that running.
That was an awful idea, Dad.
I understand that now, but it's like you're in the midst of that flight or fight response, and it's like, I was not going to fight them. I was fleeing, and in retrospect, I know it's the wrong thing to do, but it's like I was panicking.
But see, Brian, this is the thing. If he would not have been swatting, it would not have been nearly as funny.
Yeah.
Right. Now, I'm sure that little episode there provided several minutes of entertainment.
I wish I would have caught it on camera, but see, this is the thing. My dad's of an age now where you really have to make sure that he's okay.
Yeah. Now I'll tell the two of you.
He's still young enough to where I can laugh at him, though.
Yeah, there is another beekeeper that I talk to on here. His name is the Bug Farmer. He does what's called the stingometer. And he just put a short out yesterday or the day before, and he opened up one of his hives and got stung 23 times in a minute. And it showed him in his camera tearing off, running through his yard and the bees, and he was swatting and doing this. And it's just a short 1 minute little thing. I told him, I said, I'm sorry, but when I see other people get stung, I crack up laughing.
Oh, it's
That's what
hilarious.
he was doing. He did everything except fall on the ground and roll.
I worried about you, Dad. That's
The
why I
bees are
didn't film
chasing me,
it.
and he's driving behind me casually in the side by side. You're right. You're right. They started yelling for me. It's like I literally ran around our entire goat pen before they stopped chasing me.
Stop, drop, and
I
roll.
mean, that's
I
exactly
just
right.
wanted to see if you were still able to set that track record you had in high school.
That's what I mean. I was a 53-year-old fat guy running away from bees. It was not a pretty sight. And I was hauling butt too. I probably did the 100-yard dash in like 20 seconds. So
That's funny.
I wasn't on Usain Bolt's timeline, but I was moving and throwing my clothes off in the process.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah. This year, now the two of you, Big Rick, Little Rick, I'm going to do something, and for all the people that do watch, I'm going to do something this year, and I just started a new playlist, and it's on queen rearing.
I saw one you did that. You were just starting out. You did that's the one thing I didn't talk to you about was that, what was it called? A mini poly queen mating nuke.
Yeah. Yeah. And with the queen rearing, and I'm all new to it. There's a way that you when you look in, you have to be able to identify a certain age larvae, and the younger the better. They say it typically looks like, you don't want to get them big fat ones in the cells. You want to get the real small ones that they say kind of look like a comma.
Right.
And you can get a grafting tool, and you pick them up out of the cell and put them in a brown cup that fits into this little cup here. And then what you do with this is you put it on this bar, and you can put them then in a queenless hive, and they will build out that queen cell. So then you can more or less, grow your own queens. So I've always been interested in queen rearing. I was always kind of just taken back. I thought it was super difficult. Mm-hmm. I know there's a lot of like intricate steps to it. But talking to a lot of people, they say, like the one guy that I talked to, he's like, I have my 6-year-old son grafts for me. So he said, if you think it's hard, my 6-year-old boy does it. So, but yeah, and I'm just, I'm getting all my supplies now. Like this bar that I have here is where, once the queen cells are built out, and what they look like because they were hanging on the bottom of your frame. These other cages that are on here, you can actually put this other roller cage over top of the cell. So that way, when the queen, emerges out, they don't go and,
How do they feed her in that thing?
Well, typically what happens is when you have those swarm cells in a hive, first thing that queen will do when they get out is they'll go around and try and kill the others. Right. They want to be the only one. So that's why with this roller cage. But what I'll do also is put a little dab of honey. But when they, emerge out also, that's what the mini mating nuke is for, is I'm going to, now I'm probably only going to try for a handful of queens just because I don't want to go crazy, and I don't want an apiary that's, I don't want 50 hives. I want, by the ending of this year, I'd like 10 is a good number for me. So if I have a handful of them, I have enough equipment that, I'll do splits and they'll be queenless, and then I'll take these off and just put them into those splits and hope that they mate. Now that little mini box that I had, it holds, I think they say about a cup to 2 cups of bees is all. So it's very small. A lot of people I've been, reading, they have a real high success with the queens mating with those. So I'm just trialing it out, and it's, I'm going to show everything more or less. And that's one thing that I don't hold back and just show all of the positive side of beekeeping, where I have failures. And if I graft 10 and none of them take, I'll show it. I don't have a problem. So I'll share my experience.
If you just sit there, I don't know. Where's the echo coming from?
I don't know. I haven't changed anything.
Yeah, I don't hear an echo. But yeah, if I graft 10 and none of them take, I figure, well, I'll look at what I've done and learn from it and try something else. So
yeah, what I was saying is I'm still echoing.
I'm not. I don't.
Yeah, I don't hear an echo.
Try now. Rick, try it.
Hello. So I can still hear it a little bit. Yeah, if you sit there and you only share the good things, then it makes it look like it is easier than what it is. And granted, me and Papa could easily have spent more time with the bees, but then other things on the farm would have gone neglected. And if you've watched any number of our videos, you'll realize really quick that we stay really, really, really busy with a lot of different things.
We've invested a lot in goats, and they take priority over the bees.
Yeah, 100 plus chickens, and then it's a ton. And really, the chickens are almost on autopilot for the most part, other than collecting eggs. But it's when we let them out in the morning, we just spread a quick 2 scoops of feed and go about our business, and then collect eggs at night. But the goats, which is much more of a monetary investment, you got to make sure that your investment is being taken care of. And with that being said, the 2 kind of beehives sitting off to the side, unfortunately, they didn't really take precedent. But once everything starts to iron out, then hopefully we can. I mean, because me and Papa would both love to get some of our honey and be able to keep them throughout the entire season to get a good harvest. So if anybody in the chat has any questions, go ahead and start leaving them now. We're going to start winding up the get to know them segment. Papa, you want to ask him some of the? Do you have a talent?
Well, Brian, before you do that, Brian, do you still have your Etsy store?
I do.
Yep. Yeah, let me share that.
I'll put it up, right?
All right.
I do. And the only of what I have on the Etsy store, and I actually have one of them right here. I do my own lip balm, and it's from my beeswax, shea butter, coconut oil, and it's just even parts, and then just whatever essential oils. But I've got 5 different ones that I do.
Yeah, there was about 4 or 5 of them, and they're very reasonably priced. A lot of stuff on Etsy is it's very nice stuff because a lot of it's handcrafted, but it's very reasonable. And Papa's a fan of, this is something that nobody really knows about Papa. He's had a number of different kind of lip balms, like chicken poop. Yeah, it's called chicken poop lip balm.
It's
this one here and it's one of the ones that I use. It's lavender. My 2 favorites.
You kind of look like a lavender kind of guy, Brian.
See,
no, I'm kidding.
The 2 favorites, and I think that I've actually sold the most of these 2. It's lavender and peppermint. they are, I mean, phenomenal. So, and the people that have bought them, they're like, those are the two that I like. So,
see, the problem with those kind of lip balms is like when I was a kid, you get the chapstick and it was cherry flavored. You put it on your lips and then you take your teeth and skin off like a 1/16 of an inch and you chew on it and then you swallow it. And before you know it, you've eaten your entire thing of chapstick.
That's what's wrong with you nowadays.
I've never eaten my lip balm.
I think that's why they took off. Remember in middle school, I don't know how old you are, Brian, but in middle school we had these scented markers in art class that smelled like orange and strawberry and grapes. And people just, these middle school kids would just sit there and huff their markers all class.
Well, now we had a kid. Anymore. I'm 48. We had a kid when I was in grade school, and I still remember his name, Kenny Arby. In art, they would take his glue because he would eat the glue. So you're like, don't let Kenny have your glue because he's going to eat it. And the teachers would yell at him all the time. Kenny would eat the glue. So,
Come On Homesteading had a quick question before we go ahead and end. It's in your opinion, what is the best hive to start with, vertical or horizontal?
So that's kind of a loaded question. If you go with a typical Langstroth hive and you go with the vertical, what you have to understand is, and I went with 8 frame instead of 10 because I wanted to save my back. 10 frame vertical, 10 frame hives, when you're pulling off a completely full deep that's packed with stores, packed with bees, they're heavy. I've seen a lot of talk. So, as far as vertical, if you don't mind lifting, go with a vertical. The horizontal hives, I've seen a lot of talk recently about the horizontals just because of the ease of working them. So for a lot of the older folks, or even not even older, if someone has back problems or whatever it is, they don't have to worry about lifting those heavy boxes. So,
or they're planning for the future.
Yeah. And that's it. I mean, like right now, I could lift, a 10 frame box, no problem. But I just got thinking, well, 10 years from now, am I going to want to lift up a box that weighs however much? And I thought, no. So we got Don, the fat bee man, in here.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Sheila Robinson is also asking, do you guys make more than just lip balm for the beeswax?
I don't. Sheila, I don't. I've had a couple people ask me about candles. I just didn't want to get into making candles. I've a buddy of mine bought some of my wax because he is into archery and he makes his own bows and arrows and that. So he used the wax for archery. But the only thing I do with, my wax is right here. And then I use some of the wax also if I need to, re-wax some frames or things like that. I'll use it for that. So, there's nothing like having your own wax is like gold. So, yeah.
So there's a question in here from Jules, Brian, and we'll probably wrap it up after this. I don't understand. This is Don the Fat Bee Man. I don't understand what you mean. So he's talking about if you want to make money, use the Langstroth. If you're a hobbyist, use the horizontal hives.
Yeah, and I don't.
Can you explain the difference?
So a Langstroth hive that's more of that vertical style. So you're getting into the 8 frame and 10 frame, and
you stack the box on top, right?
Yep, yeah, that's the Langstroth. And a lot of that equipment is very interchangeable. When you're getting into the top bar hives and those horizontal hives, I can see Don's point in that I can't imagine that commercial folks would want to, if you're pulling out, in the horizontal hives, if you've got, frames that are built out with honey, you're having to pull, whether it's a top bar or whether you're using, there's different styles, a Layens hive, there's all kind of different horizontals. If you're pulling those frames out, you're going to have to replace them. It's just so easy. Like what Dawn, when you're dealing with the vertical hives and when you have your supers on your hives, whether you use, there's strips that you can put on so that it drives the bees out of the supers. There's other equipment that you can put on that, when the bees work out of the super, they don't go back up in them. So it's easy to go over on a vertical hive, grab, your honey super off of it, brush the bees out of it, and go. I can go and I can pull the supers off of my hives in a matter of minutes. It's quick. So, and to the point, they're like for commercial, I could understand that the commercial guys, you're not going to want to be opening up hives and looking at frames and things like that. You want it just that quick route.
Right.
So,
and you want it to be scalable, and those horizontal hives are really not scalable.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
All right, well, Brian, this has been fun, sir. It's great to get to know you better. And
man, I've enjoyed
this has
it.
been a blast. I just looked at your count, and looks like you've gained at least 6. Hopefully it'll be a little bit more after we're done. So hope we gave you a little bit of bump, and thank you everybody in here for going over and checking out Brian's channel. If you haven't, go check it out. Give him a little bit of a bump. Help him get up to that 1,000 mark so we can help get him monetized. So this has been a blast, man. Been great getting to know you better and having some chats and kind of digging more deep into some of your older stuff. But if you could do a series on, kind of starting out a brand new hive, what would you do with something like that, step by step, and kind of put its own playlist? I think that'd be a great playlist.
So, and just a final, because we could probably talk for 3 hours. I know the two of us sitting here. I will and look for when I get the packages this spring. Look for a playlist, and I'll show Contrary Farmstead right there. You'll probably see him in a video when I pick up my packages. I'll show how I'm putting that package in the hive, and what to look for. So definitely look for that, because I'll start a brand new. Here's putting the package in, and here's what to look for. So look for that this spring.
One of the other ones I think would be really, really helpful. It would be helpful to us, and I'm probably speaking, I think, for other folks, is really kind of the pest control aspect of keeping your hive healthy. The hive beetles, the Varroa mites, and in our case, and I don't know if this is an issue in Ohio, but cockroaches, German cockroaches, get up into our hive, and I mean they're horrible. And one of the hives I think got overrun by cockroaches, so I don't know if it was weak and they just couldn't defend it. I don't know. I mean,
we have the Varroa mites, of course, and the small hive beetles. We'll get some ants here and there, but they more or less stay, in the top of the hive. Or I've got a hive that has little observation windows in it, and when you pull the little boards to look through the plexi, you'll get ants in there. But one of the things that I use to keep the ants out of my hives, it's cinnamon.
Oh, really?
I sprinkle cinnamon on that inner cover, and you won't see another ant.
Wow, I've never heard that before. That's cool. Good advice. So that's kind of tips and tricks that I need to learn, is that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So the tinkerer's wife said, "I keep bees vicariously through you all." Well, that surprises me, because the tinkerer's wife, you're pretty knowledgeable with this stuff, it sounds like. So I was impressed with your knowledge. That surprises me. So, well, Brian, I'm going to bid you farewell, sir. And
all right,
this
Rick,
has been a blast. Thank you so much for coming on. And I'm going to be in touch with you, because for coming on, I'm going to send you one of our shirts.
Oh, awesome.
All
Thank
right?
you so much.
Cool. All righty, buddy.
Yeah.
Take care, and we're going to move on. So,
all right. You as well. Thank you, Rick.
Take care. Bye-bye. All right, folks. All right, so that was fun. That was very informative. We had a blast. I want to do a couple of shout outs, and this kind of, so Lala come to me earlier this week and she says to me, do you know of any good keto channels that you follow? And I said, well, lo and behold, I know of 2 excellent keto focused channels. So I turned her on to Voon Chile and I turned her on to Keto Homestead with Jess. And in both instances, she said, thank you so much. So she's been, I don't know if she's been leaving comments, but she's actually been exploring both of your channels this week. I think she probably was, I don't know if she was lurking in there or she left comments, but hopefully she was leaving you some comments. But you got 2 more subs from Lala. Each of you got a sub this week from Lala because of your keto focus. Because once Little Rick and his family move out, she's putting me on keto because this has been a bad year for really good food, bad in a good way. We've been eating really well because Chelsea loves cooking and she cooks really well. And I've been gaining weight really well in direct proportion to the quality of her food. So she's going to put me on a keto diet and she wants to do really good keto food. And so those are 2 channels I sent her over to. So she's been checking them out. So upcoming get to know them sections next week. I've not heard from them in a while, and I haven't seen them on any of our lives in a while, so hopefully they're still on for next week. Dusty Goat Homestead, they're over in the Florida Panhandle. Hickory Croft Farm is on February 3rd. February 10th is Conrad Homestead, and then 2/17 or February 17th is Lee's, Arkansas bound. So that is what's coming up. Rick, you got any tech things you want to talk about?
I will probably be doing a text. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I will probably be doing a tech session, or I will be doing a tech session on Sunday. I'm in the works of probably going to do it on something involving our live stream. Actually, live streaming seems to be taking a hold. A lot of people in the community are really enjoying putting the live streams on. And I feel like me and Papa definitely do a pretty decent job of putting those on. And ours is pretty unique in the form of the fact that we're literally sitting 24 foot away from one another because of social distancing, of course. But was that funny? Yeah. So, but like I said, go ahead and go into a little bit of detail on how we do our lives. A lot of people have taken notice of the banner that we have, or the overlays, along with our intro video and backgrounds and stuff like that. So again, it'll just be a live on literally how we put together our live stream. Everything from the live stream notes.
Don't cover his mouth and nose. Just one or the other.
live stream notes to the actual overlays and logos and stuff like that we put in there and make it look more, I don't know, produced.
So Silhouette Park Farm. Next week is going to be Dusty Goat Homestead. That's a very small channel over in the Panhandle of Florida. It's one of those channels we're just starting out. They contact us literally right after we started doing our lives, and I gave him some dates, but he has some other responsibilities, working and coaching, that he had to try to wrap up, that he couldn't come on earlier. So we've kind of had him in the queue for about 3 months, but they're on next week. Then Hickory Croft Farm, Conrad Homestead, and Lee's, Arkansas bound are the next 4. All right, and we talk about the merch store. We still just got the 5 designs. Rick hadn't been. He's been working his tail off, so he has not gotten our newest ones up. But shirt giveaway. Let's give away a shirt or a $10 Amazon gift card. So a lot of folks in here already have shirts. So if you don't want another shirt, then I can do a $10 gift card, and those are pretty easy. I can just send them to you electronically. So, all right. So this has never been you know, if you watch any of our lives, that most of the time the answers to our live question comes from previous videos. This answer does not come from a previous video. What it comes from is last week's live stream. How much? So everybody that's been watching the channel, you've probably seen a lot of the shorts that I've done with Magnus. Magnus is our one bottle baby from this year's goat kidding. And my question is, at birth, how much did Magnus weigh?
That's a pretty hard question.
It is a hard question, but Michael Harris, he was on here, and I don't even think he's going to get that. Nobody's. I'm going to if nobody gets it, I'm going to do hot and cold. And everybody's kind of in the ballpark. So while everybody's guessing for that, I'll let Rick watch that. So here's the update on Magnus. So we've done I think 4 or 5 shorts on Magnus. He was born at this point 12 days ago. And he was one of triplets. And the other 2 popped out, got up, started nursing, and have flourished. Magnus did not. Magnus couldn't keep his body weight on, and really struggled from the moment he hit the ground. So about 30 seconds after he was born, Lala picked him up because he couldn't stand, wasn't moving, and she wrapped him up in a towel, and he spent the next 7 days in a pack and play under a chicken warmer, a chicken heater. Well, I should say he spent about 4 days under the chicken heater in a pack and play. And then we took the heater off of him. He started holding his body heat. He was taking a bottle every 4 to 5 hours. Well, last weekend, Magnus was freed. So Magnus is out with all the other goats as of Sunday, I believe it was. So he's out with all the other kids romping around all day long. His mother will not have anything to do with them. We tried to put her onto the teat, and she tried to headbutt him. So we're not going to try that again. We did take one of our other fresheners, and she allowed him to latch on if we were holding her. But once he walks up to her, unless we're holding her, she won't allow him to latch on. So all of the does have kind of rejected little Magnus, and but he's out there and he romps around with all of the other little babies. And so we go out there about every 4 to 5 hours, and we're still bottle feeding him. And he started tasting, kind of putting his mouth on some feed and some straw, but he's not eating any of that. He's still a little bit too young for that. And he's doing well. He's doing very well. So I hope that we can get a video at some point of the process that happens when Lala goes, or Madeline goes out into the barn and yells Magnus, because it's completely quiet. She'll go into the barn. It's completely quiet other than the chickens. And she will say, all they got to do is say his name. And you hear this screaming. And then Lala was watching him the other day. He was on the bottom of a goat pile.
How's it go again, Dad?
He was on the bottom of the goat pile of kids, and he basically couldn't get out because he's tiny compared to everyone else. So it was funny, but he will run up to the gate so that they can feed him. It sounds like a blast. I still have not seen it, but hopefully we can get a little short of that, where they go out and they feed him, and how responsive he is to that. So we still don't have a winner, Rick?
We have had several people 0.1 under and 0.1 over.
Okay, so there's your clue. I don't know if that's a good clue.
Well, that's a lot of
guesses. This was never in a video. This was in last week's live.
My Alabama farm life was 0.1 away, and the Beehive homestead was 1 point away.
So that's the Magnus update. So Magnus is doing really well, and Magnus here's a clue for you. Magnus has topped 5 pounds at 12 days old. So he's doing well. And, I think we have universally kind of agreed that, when we started the farm, we said we will not have pets.
My Alabama farm life. Your first guess is what I was going off of. Paula Wells is very hot right now.
You're giving them really good clues now. So when
Hickory Croft, bing.
Hickory Croft Farm, and they nailed it. So Magnus weighed 3.1 pounds when he was born, and now he's capped over about 5.5 pounds as of last weekend. So he's doing super, super well. So Hickory Croft Farm, I will shoot you an email. Make sure that your email is on your about tab of your channel. I will shoot you an email at that address, and give you the option of either a shirt of your choice or a Amazon gift card. So baby goats, we still got our competition going. All of the guesses were in 3 weeks ago on how many total babies we're going to have, and we still have one doe yet to deliver. We're sitting at 29 total births, and we still got one doe to deliver. She's a freshener, so I don't know what we're going to get out of her. Sometimes we'll get singles, sometimes we'll get twins. Goat question. So I had Leah was in here a little bit earlier. I don't know if she's still in here, but she had an interesting question this week in response to the baby goat video. And her question was, why did we have such a good kid season this year as opposed to last year? And the reason is we're pretty confident that this year Lala made some significant changes to our feeding program. So we were still trying out different commercial feeds last year. We tried sweet feeds, we tried mill feeds that were specifically for goats, and she spent just tons and tons of time this year researching goat feed and what is the nutritional needs of goats at various developmental levels, both bucks and does. And she has developed essentially her own recipe for goat feed, and it's 1 part black oil sunflower seeds, 3 parts oats, and 3 parts barley. That's the base mix, and then she will mix that base mix then with either alfalfa or Timothy pellets. Alfalfa for the does, it goes 3 parts alfalfa, 1 part base mix. And for the bucks, it's Timothy pellets, which is a grass, and that is 3 parts Timothy to 1 part base mix. They get about 1/2 cup a day each of that. We basically bulk measure it, put it into their feeding troughs. And that has made, we're convinced, a gigantic difference in not only goat health. We have wormed exponentially less goats this year than we did last year. Now, we culled several of our breeding does last year because of wormy issues, but we really have not had an issue this year systemically with worms. So body habitus is much improved over last year on this feeding regimen. Last year we had 1 set of triplets, 10 sets of twins, and 2 singles, 25 total kids from 12 does. This year we've got 1 set of quads, 6 set of triplets, 3 sets of twins, and just 1 single so far. So the difference has been significant on this feed regimen. So we're just super stoked. We think she's kind of figured out the puzzle in terms of what on our particular piece of land our goats need, because everything else they get through hay, supplementation, and during the summer it's all forage based.
I was gonna say, that's one of the hit points that Patrick, stop playing the banjo. So that's one of the hit points that
Patrick, stop.
I mean, that's one of the hit points that we had on the old, or on that video that Lala had spoken about. And not to say that this exact recipe wouldn't work on other people's property, but that recipe is specific to our property and the nutritional value that the forage on our property has for our goats. And so it has just taken Lala a lot of tinkering with the amount of alfalfa pellets and the
Good night, Jan. Good to see you.
black old sunflower seeds and all of the other ingredients that go into it. We've subtracted completely some ingredients because Lala found that our property naturally gave them those ingredients. So I mean, there was a lot of thought process that went into that recipe, and Papa already kind of gave it to you. But if you guys are interested in kind of seeing a little bit more in depth and seeing it like actually on the screen, so you can pause and write it down, I do encourage you guys to go over and check out the how to mix feed fast for goats. It's definitely an asset on our channel for sure.
So we've got so we're coming to an end here. So in the coming weeks we're going to have another video on the next installment of Rick versus Rodent. We got I've got a trap out there now that we built from a model from 2.5 acres. We've also redeployed the CO2 trap, set some more manual traps out in the barn, and we'll kind of update you on that. Did a workshop video, kind of finally got to the point where we had our security installed out there. So I kind of showed you that. So we're going to be doing some additional workshop videos as I get that organized. Going to be doing some seed starts this weekend, and then some tours of the greenhouse and gardening areas coming up. So lots coming up. I mean, we're going to be getting super, super hot with kind of an expanded range of videos, kind of working within the shop and some of the projects that we do out there now, and also some gardening videos as well. So that's going to be coming up over the next several months. So this has been fun, folks. Really, really appreciate all of you coming in. We got 19 people, so people are starting to kind of trail out now. So greatly, greatly appreciate everyone coming in tonight, spending the last hour and a half with us. I know this has been a long one, but it was interesting talking to Brian, and we had a blast talking to him, getting to know him a little bit better. So we're going to go ahead and close this up. So folks, remember, always treat others as you would like to be treated. Good night, folks.